Minted's purpose is to showcase and sell exceptional art from around the world. In this session, we will discuss how they deliver thousands of highly realistic, personalized images on the fly, so their discerning customers can easily visualize art in their digital living rooms. You'll also learn how Minted rapidly creates immersive experiences, including 2D, 3D views of framed artwork, using advanced imaging, video, 3D transformation, and rendering capabilities. So our speakers will be Milind Pansare, VP of Product Marketing, Cloudinary, and Suruchi Shukla, Vice President Marketing, Minted. Welcome.
Great, thank you for that introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Milind Pansare, but I'm going to kick it off with Suruchi. And maybe, Suruchi, with that intro, you can follow up. I think almost everyone here should know Minted, would have bought something on Minted, but for those who don't, maybe a quick intro to Minted and what you guys do.
Absolutely. Actually, by show of hands, how many of you guys do know Minted? Well, you're not wrong. Well, for those of you who don't know us, we are about a 15-year-old company. We started in the stationery space, so a lot of you guys probably use us for your holiday cards, wedding invitations, things like that. But we are very quickly becoming a marketplace of products that you can use for your home. Artwork, including original artwork, sculptures, and any other things you can think about for your tableware and things like that. So that's Minted. And I'm also supposed to tell you why Cloudinary. And so, again, by show of hands, how many of you guys are retailers and deal with millions of image assets? Yeah. So we are pretty much a typical retailer as well, thousands and thousands of SKUs. And then when you start to create imagery for it, it starts to go into the millions, which is why we brought on Cloudinary to help us deal with that level of scale of images. But I'll let you introduce it.
Absolutely. So just in a nutshell, what we are is a software as a service platform for images and videos on the net, on the web. And some of you might use us already as part of the tech stack, as does Minted. But you probably have always interacted with Cloudinary without knowing it. So if you've been shopping on the world's largest sportswear apparel sites, or you're in the market for a new EV or a truck, or you've been consuming news on your mobile app with lots of images and videos, you've likely used us because they all use us as part of their tech stack. So in a nutshell, what we do is we take images and videos. We are a storage platform for them in the cloud, but we go much beyond that, where we actually let you manage and enrich that data, transform it on the fly, and then deliver it so that it looks pixel perfect, no matter where in the world your consumer might be. But we'll show you a little bit of it in action. I think it'll actually make more sense when we talk a little bit about some of the use cases. So I know a lot of retailers struggle still with performance on their websites, with putting images, and especially when you start adding more heavyweight imagery, with the performance and weight and generally optimizing the website. Do you want to talk a little bit to what your journey was at Minted?
Yeah, I think it was about a couple years ago, I would say 2.5-ish years ago, we started to see that our website was slowing down considerably. And when you're dealing with slower websites, all of you know how Google kind of dings you and your SEO starts to struggle. And not to mention the customers' frustration themselves, right? Customers just don't have the attention spans. If anything takes longer than a second to load, I leave, right? So I don't expect my customers to stay either. And it was becoming clearer that as our images were growing, they were growing just both in number of images, but also in the size of the image itself. That was causing a lot of the speed issues for us. So in the beginning, we started to find ways to compress these images manually, but manual only goes so far. And so what we were trying to bring Cloudinary in for was, how do we start to do image compression at scale without losing any of the image quality, resolution, or fidelity? And we've kind of now been using you guys for about 2 years, and we've seen such a significant change in the images that have gone through Cloudinary. Not 100% of them are going through Cloudinary yet, but anything that does go, the image quality and the difference in speed is amazing.
Amazing. So yeah, and like many of our other customers, you started with an easier use case, which is performance optimization. Just to kind of give you a quick wrap up on some of the platform capabilities that are possible. We can do automatic generation or transcoding of formats for images and videos. So you don't have to worry about what format should it be on Google Chrome or on other browsers or on your mobile phones. Anyone can compress images, as most of our experts at Cloudinary will tell you, but we take that pretty seriously. So we have people who are writing the newest standards for JPEG XL that are actually being used for images and videos on the web. We collaborate with Google and other companies to create those standards. And the trick to it is making the images look good and the videos look good when you compress them. So that's kind of where some of our secret sauce comes in, if you will. And then we also help you with multi-CDN delivery. So we actually, when we deliver images, we sit on top of the CDNs, and we can find the fastest path. So whether you're delivering images via Akamai, Fastly, CloudFront, China's Cache, whatever the case might be, we'll find the fastest CDNs for you. So maybe we can switch gears a little bit from performance optimization and talk about one other interesting thing that I saw on your website. So you're using us in your art section of the website. And I noticed, I took a quick count, just as I took a quick count of this room. And there are about 4,000 product SKUs out there. You allow people to not only take the original image, but also perhaps have some color variations on that image. Then you're allowing people to pick frames, different kinds of frames, multiple ones. Then the prints themselves can go on aluminum or they can go on canvas. So there's so many variations, 60 million or so. Do you want to talk a little bit about the complexity and how you manage that?
Yes, I think you've kind of covered a lot of it, but when we launched our art business, and this is not very different from a lot of what the different retailers face, but for the art business, it's important for us to show the consumer art of different sizes, right? And it's important for the consumer to see artwork in situ so they can start to visualize artwork in their living room, how it looks next to a sofa, how does it look on a shelf. And then some customers buy our artwork framed, and some of them do buy it unframed, but 60–70% people want it framed. But then what does framed look like? Is it a dark frame? Is it a white frame? Is it an aluminum frame? How do we start to, if you hold the artwork in your hand, how does that look? So how do you actually tell that story without breaking your bank? Like, anybody who knows the creative side of it, when you're trying to do these many image generations, you cannot go out and start to shoot all of these image variations, because that's just going to take all of your marketing budget. So that's what Cloudinary did for us. They actually take and do a lot of the cropping of the images. They're very subject and object aware, so they can start to build all of the things that you see down on this screen in the thumbnails, and they can produce any version of it. So while, yes, we have 4,000 product SKUs, which means we created 4,000 images, the 60 million variants came from Cloudinary, and that's scale.
Yeah, so we like to think of the cloud as making the humanly impossible possible, so that's where scale comes in. Just to
budget
kind of
impossible. Human and budget.
Human and budget, obviously, yeah. So that's where some of the ways that we do this in the platform is that we do use AI for subject and object aware recognition of the content itself. So we are content aware. And then, obviously, we can do cropping on the fly. We can do resizing on the fly. So all of this can happen in near real time. And once it gets cached the first time on the CDN, it's instantaneous for your consumers. We also, when you ingest all these images or you put them into our store, we also manage them by doing AI analysis and automatic tagging. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. That enables you to do natural language and similarity search. Show me more things like this if you're in the creative or content ops team. And then we also do advanced AI models like removing backgrounds realistically, so right around things that are difficult like hair or seeing through a car window and taking out the background properly. So all of those are trained AI machine learning models. But I did notice something even more fascinating on your website, so I want to kind of switch gears and spend a little bit of time talking about that. So I always buy art printed on canvases because I just love the way it looks. You want to talk a little bit about what you guys do, which I found fascinating?
Yes. So this one was a very tricky use case because, again, this was a 2D art print. And mostly what we sell is art prints. Some of them are limited edition art prints. Some of them are actually original arts. But they are unmounted prints. And so our challenge was, how do we showcase the consumer, show it to the consumer what it would look on a canvas mounted. So anybody who buys artwork from gallery want to take their gallery prints and really understand what it would look mounted on canvas and show them, they kind of want to see what the edges of the mounting would look like, what's the depth of the frame itself is, so how would it stand on your actual wall. And that's not a very easy thing to do in any way. So this was a use case and a problem statement we took to Cloudinary, and they built this functionality specifically for Minted. So thank you for that. And it's actually made a huge difference in how a consumer, remember we are a D2C brand, so the consumer doesn't have a way to come and see the product anywhere or touch and feel it. So this is us actually trying to help them see this in real life. So this was an amazing service that you guys built for us.
Yeah, I remember, because I've been at Cloudinary for over 5 years, so I remember when our engineering team was so thrilled and showed us this particular use case with your art at one of our all company-wide town halls, so that was great. Again, we love working as design partners, and then all of these new advances that we do come back in the platform, because it's a SaaS platform and they're released immediately to all customers. But just to wrap up some of the capabilities in there, it's not just 3D and the texture mapping and the distortion effects to make that canvas look great. We also offer a customizable product gallery, so you don't have to build your own product details page. And all of that is auto-responsive, can take in 3D 360 spin sets. It's all automatically optimized, and you can have videos in there, and it's just beautiful. So again, something to keep in mind there. But I'm mindful of time, and I believe that no talk or session at CommerceNext 2023 can end without a discussion about generative AI. So I'm sure that's top of mind, or at least somewhere in your conversations. So do you mind if we switch gears and maybe talk about how you view practical applications of generative AI?
I mean, I'm guessing everybody in this room is talking about or thinking about AI in one way or the other, and so we're not an exception. We are talking about using AI in various different ways. But as a marketer, the couple things that I'm thinking about is, one, how do I actually use AI to, again, go back to cost saving and finding that efficiency? Because when we have this many products, the 4,000 SKUs we talked about was just in our art business. Our stationery business and other businesses are even larger. So as more and more new products come in, we have to continuously be doing product photo shoots. And do it in a studio setup generally, but that takes quite a bit of planning and of course, dollars. And so how can we use AI to generate these PDP images? But the challenge that becomes for us is, while AI can create these background images and stuff, how do we mask out the product that AI has picked up and us bring them in minted product, whether that's artwork or our stationery products, into the image itself, and do it in very precision. So when our creative director oversees these photo shoots, things are done very precisely, right? Everything is placed on a tablescape in a very precise manner. So how do we kind of do that similar precision-driven product placement in the images, and do it at scale, because again, they now have to live across our PDPs. That's kind of problem statement one that I'm dealing with. And I'll talk about the second one too, and then you tell me if you can do something about it or not. As I talked about, Minted is becoming a marketplace, and marketplace means we now are open to a lot of sellers. We're going to get to we have about 800 sellers that are selling on the site. But as they upload their images, they're uploading images based on their own brand, look and feel, and tone. And that does not necessarily match Minted. And we are, we're a little bit more obsessed about our brand as guidelines. So how do we start to up-level these images and make it so it looks and feels very similar to what the Minted brand is? Those are kind of the two things I'm looking at AI for both efficiency and cost purposes.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to talk about a few features in Cloudinary that we just announced actually today. So we just put out a press release. So
Today.
It's timely, yeah. Well, we had them internally for a while, which is why you see them on the slide, but we publicly announced them today. So just going from left to right on the slide, one of the obvious use cases for AI is you can use these large learning models that what we call multimodal models that can tell you more than just what we were using AI for before. So before we could tag the image that you see there, and you would probably get tags that said table, chair, painting. But what you get with auto captioning now is you'll get a natural language statement that says, this is a dining room table. It's got white chairs, and it's got a painting hanging above it and a plant in the center of the table. So now you have much better alt text that you can generate. That's important for accessibility. It's also important for similarity search and findability, as we call it. It's many applications of that. So I'll kind of leave it there. I could talk about this forever. I'm a computer science geek by background, so I could go on and on. But the other thing that we just announced is what we call generative remove. So generative remove is where you can use a natural language prompt and say, remove the burger from the scene, right? And then I don't have that example here, but remove the orange or whatever the glass was. Another example is if you have, say, a portrait mode image and you want to make it a 4:3 and you want to do a generative fill. So that's essentially fill in this image, but don't just put in black or white pixels. Put in something that completes the scene that makes sense. So that's another capability that we just introduced. And then there's also replace. So in this example on the right-hand side, you can see there's a beer bottle, obviously not good if you're doing a marketing campaign to people under 21 in the US. So let's replace it with an orange glass. Again, kind of moving clockwise down this, you can see there's a photo shoot, right? So that's kind of really interesting, and obviously that's more experimental technology that we're working on in our labs and will get released soon. But that's what we call a photo shoot, right? So now you can say, hey, I have imagery, or I would like to have imagery of a modern minimalist kitchen, or I would like to see this product, which are my 2 coffee cups, placed on a Provence-style kitchen. And all of these can be generated very quickly. I mean, they take just seconds, and you can see it being generated. And the technology is getting there. It's getting better and better. So we actually have this to play around with in beta right now. And then the last one I'll talk about is conversational interfaces to our own programming model. So Cloudinary obviously has a programming model where you can create transformations and say, it's usually done by developers. But here now you can just say conversationally, hey, I'd like to take all the images in this folder and apply a blur and put a watermark in the southwest corner, please. And you're done, right, pretty much. And that all of the code for that gets generated. The things happen on the fly. So those are kind of interesting things. You talked a little bit about marketplaces. So did you want to chat a little bit more on AI, or should we talk a little bit about marketplaces here?
We can do marketplace.
Great. So marketplaces are interesting, right? When you shop, like some of our customers have food marketplaces like Just Eat, Grubhub, and you're shopping for food, and these images are coming from businesses. So there's multiple things you have to do. You have to normalize the images so they look good. That's the same with our travel and hospitality customers. someone uploads an image of an apartment or something for rent, you got to make it look just as good as the other one. So there's all the effects you need to provide to normalize it, to make it look on brand. And then there's moderation, which is actually putting it through a workflow where a human looks at it. It's the same with AI, right? You want to have a human look at it to make sure nothing looks like it's infringing someone else's product or what have you. So again, you need that moderation workflow. And then last, I think there are many examples from generative AI, right, that we can talk about.
AI blows my mind. It's like I can come up with any problem statement and some answer from AI is sort of out there. So, well, thank you. This was very helpful.
It's here, yeah. And I always love kind of the statement that AI won't replace you, but some other human using AI more effectively might replace you, right? So that's where I think the potential is, again. So this was a fascinating discussion. I want to thank you again so very much for being a Cloudinary customer and for joining us today, Suruchi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. And thank you, everyone.